Has anyone ever challenged you to something you are an expert at without them knowing it? If so, how did it turn out for them? You? Not me, but I remember a story of a kid whose dad was remodeling their garage and he was going over the drawings with the inspector who had a chip on his shoulder and was saying that the designs wouldn't work. The dad was disagreeing, saying that it were going back and forth. The dad then asks if he would improve it if he had a pay sign off on it. The inspector agrees and the dad goes inside and gets his pay stamp and stamps the drawing. I can't wait to do this myself. My garage would promptly fall over. Source: chemical engineer. At a BBQ last summer, my friend's nieces, kind of bratty little things, were playing on the trampoline. They were doing front flips and things. They challenged me to do what they were doing. Little did they know that I had 15 years of gymnastics and 6 years of trampolining history. I launched in with a straight double back somersault. That simultaneously impressed them and reminded me of the value of a good warm-up. Back surgery, $10,000. Double knee replacement, $20,000. Looks on their faces, priceless. I bought a house and had a guy offer us a $20 Lowe's card to give us an in-home demonstration of water filtration technology. He came in and set up and started his spiel. He asked me what I do for a living, and I replied that I am a chemist at a water treatment plant. He stopped for a second and said, "You probably know more about this stuff than I do." He then asked to talk with my wife, who refused. He packed up and left without continuing the demo. Never got my $20 Lowe's card. That guy could have taken that as opportunity to learn from you and up his game. I sort of did that. I was jokingly challenging my philosophy teacher with a 1-meter ruler, sort of like a sword. He grabbed a pointer and completely disarmed me. Apparently when he was at Oxford he had done fencing, and for quite a while after that. Freaking British classrooms. Owner of the restaurant I work at brings in this gimmicky as seen on TV vegetable dicer, the kind where you still have to use a knife to get the food small enough to dice. I laughed at him as he tried to tell me how much time it's going to save us in the kitchen. He challenges me. 3 onions, small dice, winner gets a case of beer. I've been cooking professionally for close to 2 decades, so long story short, that was some good beer. In all fairness, those things do help old ladies with arthritic fingers. I was at the gym at work and there's a fit looking older guy running on the treadmill. There's also another guy there wandering around, not really working out but trying to talk to everyone and offer advice. What is it with guys thinking girls need help in the gym? Haha. Just being a pest in general. He wanders over to the guy running and starts asking him what he's training for. Running guy answers ultra marathon in a few weeks. Annoying guy is impressed but jokingly and says, "Will you win?" RG. Probably. AG. Oh. Hahaha. Yeah, you've always got to be positive, right? RG. Well, I've won it for the last 3 years and the closest person to me was 50 minutes behind me. So yeah, I'm pretty positive. I surreptitiously checked out his name on the sign-in register and went back to my desk to Google him. Yep. Multiple records for ultra marathons. 24 hours road and treadmill races. 48 hours treadmill races. 48 hours treadmill races. Madness. Late to reply, but years ago one of the goofiest friends of mine had a pair of those fricked up teeth made by a dentist, so they looked extremely real and were extremely messed up. He would wear these and talk in a hillbilly drawl, acting pretty much functionally retarded. He could keep this act up for hours. In reality, he was a scratch golfer who had a full ride to a university with a nationally ranked golf team. He was wearing his teeth and scrungy clothes when playing a round of golf with a friend and they had to pair with a couple of older CEO type snobs who were wannabe Arnold Palmers. The older gentleman decided to take advantage of my friend for some easy money. Friend accepted and then convinced them to raise the wager to a more serious amount of money. It did not end well for the decked out pair of CEOs. For the record, friend kept in character the entire time, leading the men to believe they got their asses kicked by an illiterate redneck. Keep this friend around forever. He is a true winner. So I enter a round robin pool competition in Cairns, Australia. At this point in my life I look, well, a little scraggly. I'm also a bit more than half P. And my first match is against this very snazzily dressed bloke with slicked back hair who proceeds to screw his very expensive cue together as I sit on the bar stool nursing a jug of beer with a mate, the crappy house cue resting up against the table. This guy has clearly watched The Color of Money a number of times, and arrogance wafts off him like so many dollar bills from an easy mark. Now, I'm not the best pool player in the known universe, but I did get my own pool table as my 10th birthday present, and I played that crappy, warped sucker every single day for years. I then spent most of my life from 16-21 playing pool in bars in New Zealand. So, you know, I'm alright. So, anyway, Tom Cruise over here makes eye contact for the first time and I say hello and compliment him on his rather nice cue. He responds by saying, "Don't worry buddy, I'll go easy on ya." Coin flip, it's my break. I down the rest of my beer and sink 2 off the break and proceed to have a dream run. I'm in that wonderful place between slightly buzzed and rather pee where everything just feels right, and I'm sinking every shot with perfect weight and spin to bring the white into position for the next shot. 5 down, 6, 7. I'm on the black and Mr. Shark over here with the attitude hasn't had a shot. The shot is actually not that hard, and being one of those perfect moments, I carpe diem by lining it up and then look up at him to lock eye contact as I hit the white, watch the black drop in my peripheral vision, smile and nod. My mate, meanwhile, is P himself laughing. Old mate doesn't even shake my hand, walks out of the hall without saying a word. Drank too much beer afterwards and didn't win the comp. Drank too much beer afterwards and didn't win the comp. What a fitting ending. Not an expert, but I was invited to a Christmas party last year. They had a dessert competition. Not very many people knew I'm going to college for culinary arts. Won unanimously. He told me that he wanted a rematch next Christmas. I'm taking my baking class this semester. Good luck, mister. If you crush someone at making dessert, of course they want a rematch. That means they get to eat your dessert again. At the county fair I was on the receiving end of some ill-natured heckling from a couple of farm hands. Real good ole boy types. They were being dongheads to everybody who signed up for the skid loader rodeo. Smack talking anybody with how crap hot they are and how anybody else is just embarrassing themselves. For whatever reason they especially targeted me with their Lamasource rural Iowa smack talk. It got to the point where the one got on my face. To make a boring story short, I manage an agricultural business. All I do at said business is operate a skid street tractor. I won $10 and made a pair of brothers eat crow. This is the most country thing I've ever read. Somebody challenged me to play a round of Age of Empires 2, medieval strategy computer game, against him. I used to play that game on a competitive level, so I just proceeded to play at roughly the same snail's pace speed he did. Sometimes attack him with a weak armies to make it look like I'm struggling to beat him, while in reality 90% of my traps were tucked away hidden in the back of my lands. It was closed off arena map that made it really easy to hide them from him. So I continue to act like I'm struggling and slowly start to give in to his siege attacks, making it look he's actually going to win the game. At one point he asks in a victoriously smug voice, "So looks like the game is over," right to which I reply, "Looks like it," and before he could say anything else, roughly 100 fully upgraded elite Teutonic knights emerged from my side of the fog of war and proceeded to annihilate everything in their path. His reaction was priceless. It went from complete disbelief, "Where are all those units from?" to denial, "You cheating a shat," and various other emotions, while I just had a hearty laugh. I was 30 around 4-5 years ago. I went to a family house party of my GF where a bunch of her teenage cousins were playing Rock Band. It was a kinda if you fail the song you have to give the controller to the next person situation. This one kid kept being a douche to other kids because he played on hard, so he had the highest scores and never passed the guitar around. He was annoying and didn't let other kids play, making others feel bad because they played on easy or medium. Anyway, at some point he said that he could beat anyone in the party. One of the younger kids said, "I bet Badalin could beat you." I played with him once when my GF was babysitting him, so the annoying teen started mouthing off, and they called me over. I was sitting with the adults and faked ignorance. "Oh yeah, I know this game. Guitar band, right?" So we had a plastic guitar rock off. If I won, he would let the younger kids have the console for the rest of the evening. The best score would win. Same song of course. He selected AC/DC. Thunderstruck on hard. On my turn I changed the difficulty to expert. He said I think you made a mistake and I said no I didn't, then proceeded to whoop his butt score and percent wise. I became a rock god for a bunch of 12-year-olds that day. You're my hero. I had an athletics scholarship in college. I swam. But after college, I went to graduate school, biochemistry, and proceeded to lose the swimmer physique. However, you don't lose technique. So, the wife and in-laws and I are at a resort in Puerto Rico one day and I swam across the pool to meet them, and some guys started talking up their friend to go challenge me to a race. The dude came over. He was ripped, all eye candy, and challenged me to a race across the pool and back, and the loser had to buy the other group a round of drinks. There were about 8 of them and 4 of us. It was about 30 yards or so nearly a 50-meter freestyle, and I was a sprinter. In college I had a high 23 seconds time in the event, so I agree and watch him swim and touch the other side. That's when I turned that mother on, and underwater kick to a flip turn and then burst out beast mode on the return. I hit the wall when he was a little over halfway back. Needless to say, he bought us all a round of beers, and we actually ended up seeing them several times over the next week. He was a really cool dude, but was obviously really embarrassed. Now that I think about it, I hope either he or one of his friends are a Redditor and see this. My daughter started swimming competitively when she was 7. When she was about 12, we were on vacation and she was challenged in much the same fashion, minus the drink bet, by a couple college kids. She beat them badly. Was a great moment. In the Marine Corps they do a lot of wrestling grappling as training and exercise. Well, for a Marine I was a pretty unimposing looking person. Little did they know that I had been doing jiu-jitsu, a form of grappling, for about 4 or 5 years before joining. So more than a few times I would have these big weightlifter, meathead types challenge me to grappling only for me to wipe the floor with them. It kind of became a joke once people caught on, and when we would get new guys to the unit the guys in the know would trick them into grappling against me. I'm giggling just thinking of that. I was pretty good at Gears of War. Gears of War 2 comes out and a kid at school was having a tourney at his house the weekend after the game released and my buddy invited me over. The kid was talking so much crap the whole time, but mostly to me. Guess he didn't like me. I finally have had enough and said the typical 1v1 me bro, and we get to it. Execution mode on river, my best map. I was asked to leave his house by his dad after I won because I made his 16-year-old rage and put a hole into their wall. Dad should have asked his son to leave and adopted you. I had just come back from the Ultrazone laser tag national championships when my office announced that we were having a laser tag team building event. The 90s were a wonderful time. Honestly, I don't understand why we don't do this still. I occasionally encounter anti-nuclear folks to try to converse with me about how nuclear energy is the worst thing that has ever happened to the world. What they don't know is that I have a master's degree in nuclear engineering. When I tell them, and then tell them that coal power releases more radiation into the atmosphere than nuclear, they tell me that I am biased and walk away. A friend of mine once said, if nuclear power is a disaster waiting to happen, coal power is an ongoing disaster. I was at a training class in Arizona a few years ago for people in a bunch of different industries. One guy was the head of quality for a particular and well-known winery in California. We all go out to dinner and this guy orders a fairly expensive glass of wine from his winery at a restaurant. They brought over the wine and when he sipped it, he let the waitress know that this was not the wine he ordered. She assured him it was and brought him another glass. Again, he insisted it was not the right wine. Finally, the manager came over and our guy revealed himself as head of quality for the winery. The manager stumbled trying to make up a poor reason and admitted they ran out and figured they would replace it with a very similar, and as it turns out much cheaper, wine. The look of smug satisfaction on our guy's face was priceless. Was drinking with friends at a nightclub known for getting rowdy at times. Some guy and I bumped into each other. No one's fault. Just the sort of crap that happens in a crowded and dark room. We both spill a few sips of our drinks. I'm just about ready to say no big deal and forget the entire event. but he flips off, tells me I owe him another drink. No, I don't. He starts swearing at me, telling me I need to buy him another freaking drink or he will just take all of my money and buy it himself. Typical story from anyone who's dealt with a dipshit drunk in a bar looking for a fight. I work security in a hospital, a big hospital with a busier and a psych unit. We get in fights almost every other day, at least once a month, if not more. We get into a really good fight. I'm talking fighting some giant juicer monkey on methamphetamines who's fighting like his life is on the line. We get 1 week, 40 hours of fairly intense self-defense training per year. Counter strikes and takedowns mostly. So, this guy doesn't scare me. I tell him one last time to drop it and try to walk past him. He puts one hand on my chest and tries to grab for my wallet, probably assuming I'd pee out and let him take it. I grabbed his hand, talked it around, jammed it up his back pretty hard, and gave him as hard a shove as I could in a crowded little room. Must have hurt his shoulder pretty good, but no actual damage would have been done. He stumbled a few steps away and then slunk off without looking around. I used to work hospital security. Some of my co-workers, who used to work in jails, regularly commented on how much more violent it was. A big, busy, urban hospital is a freaking shitshow. Mario Kart 64. This was back in college, and I didn't actually realize how good I was. I had spent countless hours in that game just messing around in all the levels, finding the silly little tricks you can do to shave off time, practicing my banana peel aim, and perfecting the art of the upside down question mark. Some guys in my dorm challenged me, and I was just like, sure, wiped the floor. I was flabbergasted. They had been trash talking myself and each other, and at the end of the whole thing, they just stared at me like I was a monster before breaking out into holy crap-s. So they commenced in inviting their champ over to teach me a lesson. I just idly chatted the whole time while I lapped the guy on Rainbow Road, to his and everyone else's dismay. I don't even know. Most useless mastery ever? Not challenge %, but I had a guy start speaking grammar to me in Australia once, so I answered him in kind. I was working in a ticket booth at the time and I assume he was either trying to make me look dumb, impress me or impress his friends. My German isn't great, but I have enough that I could reply to him. His friends laughed. It felt good. For a while I thought Gremlin was some strange comic book language. Just the other day, we lost power to the building, and my work computer subsequently, and it wouldn't keep the date, said it was 2004, so I couldn't log on to the servers or anything. Time date sync error, and the BIOS is locked, so I can't set the date. I build computers in my spare time, so I am well versed in how things work. So this is an easy fix. Replace the CMOS battery, but we have an IT department and the computers are locked with padlocks that I don't have a key to. I work in a school, so I submit a work ticket over the phone. Lost power. PC doesn't keep time whenever power outage occurs. The IT guy comes out and spends 30 minutes trying to figure out why it won't keep time, but it keeps time while he has it turned on and working. I am just watching with disbelief. They pay this guy more than me to fix computers. Honestly, after half an hour, this guy pulls the power plug and plugs it back in. Is amazed the clock is off by 30 minutes, but still in 2004. So I finally tell him, replace the battery. Tells me there are no batteries on PCs anymore. They use capacitor power from SUS to hold the time. I am befuddled now as to how this guy got his job. I tell him, trust me, change the battery, set the time and date, unplug the power and see what happens. He finds the battery, says it's for giving the hard drives the power to park their drive heads after a power down, and reluctantly replaces it. It works fine, but he still says, it's the capacitor, it holds a charge forever. Then unlocks the BIOS for me because I seem to understand computers enough to be able to set the date, in case I need to change the time again. If it happens again, I have bolt cutters here, and will open the dang tower myself next time. I was at a software engineering conference in January, and a colleague saw my terminal with pink text running Vim, a text editor for Unix systems, and said, I bet you can't even exit out of that thing. Background: Vim is a tool that has a notoriously steep learning curve for beginners. I'm a woman doing a computer science degree, and I always make a point of not hiding toning down my love of doing hair, makeup, and dressing up, so I'm used to the shock I get when I tell people I'm in CS. It's not always their fault. Stereotypes exist. Some people are just bigger dongs about it than others and assume I have no clue what I'm doing. Anyways, the look on his face when I showed him what I knew was priceless. After many large projects using Vim as your sole editor, you learn a few many things. Also INB4 Emacs. Unfortunately yes, it never turns out well because I make vaccines for a living. People posting on Facebook, new parents discussing why they don't want to vaccinate their newborns. Friends and relatives talking about the latest sensationalist story they heard on why Big Pharma is a terrible, evil conspiracy. I've been in the industry for 6 years now, have an education in chemical engineering. I've worked with live infectious diseases, primarily pertussis and polio, been part of the manufacturing process from growing the bacteria, inactivation lysing, purification, vial filling, start to finish. I know how they work, what the history of how they used to be made is, how seriously pharma companies take adverse events, and I know firsthand how dangerous these diseases can be. But it doesn't matter because that picture that someone shared on Facebook with a sad story about their child dying obviously knows more than me. Even when I try to explain how it actually works, their eyes glaze over and nothing gets through. It's really frustrating having all the answers to every one of their concerns and not being able to reassure them because they're too stupid to understand basic biology. This is the most frustrating thing in this thread. Not a challenge per se, but I'm a cricketer, and when I went to the new club, I told everyone I was a fast bowler. I don't look the part though. 5 feet 8 inches and on the chubby side. Usually fast bowlers are lean and well over 6 feet. So naturally everyone thought I was gonna be a waste of time. Not only that, they all let me know that I should try out as a batsman or a spinner to improve my chances. The premier bowler in that club could bowl at speeds up to 135 kph on a good day. My first ball after a short warm-up clocked in at 132 kph. No one has dared make a joke about my height and body shape again. I have no idea what any of that means, but you sure sound like an expert on it. My dad is pretty much a pool pro, and this guy challenged him to a game talking hot crap. Well, my dad didn't miss one shot, and when he sunk all the solids he started shooting the guy's stripes. TL. DR, my dad is so badass he goes balls deep with other guys' balls. Best TL. DR I've ever read. I'm the boss owner at my company and mostly just work in the office. Every year we have a Christmas party in the workshop with all of our rough, tough outside workers, lots of beer, etc. One year my partner hired a pool table and all the guys who played in the bars every weekend were surprised that I whacked their asses. Next year it was a ping pong table, same thing. The third year a table soccer game. If we ever bring in a pinball game I'll have the quadrilla. PS I wasted my youth. Back in my school's anime club, we had this kid, I think the term is weeboo, who wouldn't stop bragging about how good his Japanese is, and how the rest of us should call him sensei. Apparently, he had been taking Japanese since middle school. I was actually raised in Japan. Turns out all he could do was elementary level Japanese. Couldn't even understand a single bit of colloquial Japanese or write more than a few basic sentences. I came across a great comic once about how weeboos are viewed in Japan. Basically it'd be like if a Japanese person was super obsessed with SpongeBob and would run around all the time in a mermaid man outfit trying to imitate his laugh. It's nice to know people in both countries both think the same kinds of people are morons. I play Star Wars CCG, collectible card game, competitively. Yeah, I know, it's been out of print for like 14 years now, but we still have an active community. A few years back I was playing a pickup game online against a random guy. He was playing a pretty traditional deck and I was playing a deck that at the time looked absolutely terrible on paper, but worked beautifully. The matchup was especially bad for him, and I'm a pretty strong player. As soon as I saw what he was playing, I knew I was going to win, and informed him of this, and I totally destroyed him. He kinda goes on tilt and he's talking crap about my deck. Let's play again. No way will I lose to that pile of trash 2 games in a row. I shrug my shoulders and win handily again. He still insists that my deck is terrible. Then I inform him, this deck just got second at Worlds a couple months ago. Trust me, it's pretty good. Yeah, well, who played it? The deck looks terrible. I did. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.